Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jason here with Single Tone Pickups, and today I'm going to be rewinding this 1973 Stratocaster pickup. Now, the other pickups on the guitar are in similar nastiness shape, so we're actually going to try to keep this one just as nasty as we can so it blends in while making it actually work. And one thing I already did, I already took the wire off. It had an open. There's an open in the coil. It just wasn't making connections. So, also, the pole pieces, these pole pieces were all over the place. The poles were loose, you know, they were just not where they need to be. And this pickup, you know, it seemed plenty of wear and tear here. It is distorted. You can tell where, you know, it was wound pretty tight originally, and that made the ends kind of flare weird and all that. And I tried to adjust it when I put it. I went and glued the poles in where they need to be because it's so worn out they just wouldn't stay. They were really loose, which probably contributed to the open to begin with, because when those poles get loose, the vibrations, they move inside the coil, and it just causes shorts, it causes open circuits, you name it. But after cutting the coil off, you know, you have some little rough areas on these bobbins. So what I want to do is just take a piece of sandpaper, and I just want to smooth up the underside of all this, because we don't want anything catching on our wire, we don't want any burrs. We want a nice smooth wind so that we can make this look as professional as possible. Now, while I'm doing this, let's talk about wire for a minute. There are people all over the place who would only use, you know, the black or purple looking wire on this, because being a 73, it was wound with enamel wire. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, if it's not black or purple wire, it's not plain enamel. That's not true. You can get plain enamel wire, single coat enamel wire. Actually, that's what this is right here. It's 42 AUG. It is enamel wire. This is min nom. As far as thickness, min, nominal. So it's on the thinner side as far as coating. If it was the thicker side, it would be nominal max. But this is minimal, nominal. The only thing is, instead of being purple, it is a reddish gold looking color. Now, you got to be careful, because when you're buying wire, you can get this stuff that's a red looking gold color like this, and it might be poly. Poly is going to sound different. Form bar is this very similar color, but it's going to sound different. So, choice is yours. You know, you can pay well over $100 for a pound of purple enamel wire, or you can get enamel wire that measures out to the same thickness, close, thereabouts, and we're talking like very close, that is a different color. Who cares? It's going to sound the same. That's the thing. And it has the original bobbins. It's a rewind. A rewind's a rewind. It doesn't matter what kind of wire you use. Once you rewind it, it's a rewind. Okay? Plain and simple. Now, one thing that's a problem with these pickups, when Fender would do these, and I've done some the same way, and you know, it is period correct and all that great stuff, but they would just dunk them in lacquer. And that was what they used to protect the pole pieces and all that. Now, on this pickup, the lacquer is still there. You know, it's starting to turn kind of an amber color. It is old. But what I'm going to do is we're actually going to take some pickup tape, and we're going to tape the insides of these poles off, and this will protect our coil much, much better. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead, threw on some tape. It's just paper tape. This will protect our coil from these old magnets very well. Now, before I started this whole process, I took precise measurements. So you take your caliper, and you're going to want to measure how tall the coil is originally. Did that. Write them down. That way, when you put this bobbin back together and you glue it all in place, it's going to be the same height, because a different height is going to change your tone. If it's shorter, it's going to sound a little darker. If it's taller, it's going to sound a little brighter. If it's too much shorter, you're probably not going to get the wire on that you need to get on. Okay? The other thing is, I went ahead and took measurements of these magnet links. Now that just goes into my personal book. That way I know, hey, you know, I want to make a pickup that sounds like a 73 Stratocaster. Cool. Well, I need these height of pickups. And one other thing that, and I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm going to go ahead and check. A lot of people, you can buy different diameters of magnets. You can get the 195 and 187. These are 0.185s, so 0.187. Close enough for government work there on your aftermarket stuff. It is a gray bottom bobbin. It does have, I don't know if you guys can see it. It does have the date code and all that, so we're all good. And then what you also want to do when you're taking this thing apart and you're getting all this stuff cleaned up, use some solder wick. Use solder wick, get the solder out of these holes, clean it up, make it nice, you know, that way you can still get your wire back in. And the other piece of information I forgot was this pickup. It is north up, and it was wound clockwise. So we're going to wind it clockwise. Now, to wind clockwise, you got to pay attention to what you're doing, because if I put the pickup on the winder, you know, which I can't because of the poles, but if I put it face down and my winder's going counterclockwise, I'm going to have a counterclockwise wound coil. It's not going to be in phase with the other pickups. I would have to reverse the leads on this one. And we have the original leads. So we want it to all be right. This pickup was on clockwise, so we're going to put it on the winder with the base plate down, and we're going to spin it counterclockwise while we feed our wire over the top. Because that will give us, as the pickup turns counterclockwise, our wire is layering on clockwise, okay? So I'm going to get this all set up for winding, and then we'll be back. Okay, now I've taken the liberty of going on ahead, and it's all set up on the winder here. It's nice and tight. It's ready to go. What you want to do, you know, first what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just kind of turn it by hand, put a few turns on by hand, make sure everything's going to line up correctly with the winder. And you want to do it at the base as well as up at the top of the bobbin. You know, make sure that you're not, you know, trying to wind for a wrong bobbin height, etc. So once you do that, and see we're already up to 19 turns just by turning it by hand here a few times. So there you go. That being said, you know, I'm not going to sit here and make you all dizzy watching the winder go meow and backwards, you know, for 7,657 times, because that is the spec. Now, here's the thing. This particular pickup, I wasn't able to actually get a exact wind turn count on this. Oddly enough, now I don't know if this was done at a later time in its life or, you know, something weird with CBS. This pickup had been dipped in wax. It had, or not wax, lacquer. It had been lacquer potted. Typically, most of the CBS pickups were wax potted. So, I don't know. I don't really know its background, its history. But, yeah, there was no getting the wire off to try to turn, or try to count, you know, turns. So, based on the other pickups in the guitar, which have a DCR between 5.88 and about 5.9, I would say this really needs probably about between 7,600 and 7,700 turns of 42-aught wire. Now, how do you know that? Okay, well, what you guys need to do if you're winding these pickups, you need to take about 10 feet of the wire that you're using to wind with, and you have to do this for every spool, okay? Otherwise, you're just going to be guessing blind. Take about 10 feet, and you're going to measure the resistance of that 10 feet, and then divide it by 10, and then you'll know roughly what your conversion factor is per every foot of wire that you spin. For instance, this wire comes out to about 0.84-ish, somewhere around there. I've got it written down somewhere here, and I'll find it in a minute and figure out exactly what I'm going to turn this to. But what I'm talking about by that is, let's say I wanted to wind to 7,000 turns. I would do 7,000 times 0.84. It's going to be somewhere around probably just under 6K. So that's what you're doing. You're trying to figure out how much wire do I put on this thing, you know, to get to a certain DCR. Now, I don't really like winding to a DCR. That's not how I wind my pickups. I wind a turn count because I am hand winding. When you're hand winding, no pickup is going to be exactly consistent on layers, on tension. So you have to take into consideration that even though, you know, you may be calling something like my 59s, 59 humbuckers, yeah, they're my 59s, and they're all wound to the same turn count with the same kind of wire, same brand of wire, same parts, same all of that. Each one's going to sound a little bit different because, you know, it's me. I'm one of those things called a human. Yeah, I'm a human, and you know, nothing's going to be exact. And as long as you go into pickups knowing that, you'll be okay. You got a lot of aftermarket pickup winders out there, you know, and they just give you a bland spec. You know, unless they're using a Lisona or some early type of pickup winder that is, you know, machine driven, that spec's not really all there. I can tell you that. It might be close, and it's going to be good enough for government work, but I don't really list my pickups by DCR. I'll give them to you as, you know, turn count of wire, you know, the parts used, that sort of specific stuff. It's more accurate. And there's more to a pickup than just DCR. Don't let DCR fool you. Oh, no, that's a super hot pickup. I can tell you what, I can take a Telecaster pickup, I can put 10,000 turns of 43-aught wire on it with Alnico 3 magnets, and it won't be as hot as some of your modern, you know, low output tele pickups. It'll have plenty of drive, it'll have plenty of push on the front of your amp, but it's not really a hot pickup. It'll still twang. You can still play nice and clean with it because there's more to a pickup than DCR. You've got, obviously you've got resistance as DCR, you also have capacitance, and then you also, you know, how many Henrys. So there's a lot of science that goes into a pickup. It's not just 1, 2, you know, guess a few, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There's more to it than that. Now, I, as a winder, I'm not going to give you all of that information unless you want it, because most people don't understand it. You know, it's like telling you that X plus Y equals 43Z, you know, Foxtrot, Echo, Charlie, Alpha, whatever. No one cares. I just want to know, what does X equal? So, you know, if you want that kind of information, I'll give it to you. You know, if you understand it and you know, it means something to you, then that's all well and good. But for the most part, I'll just tell people, you know, that pickup's wound with this many turns, that kind of wire, using this kind of, you know, these kind of parts. But anyway, let's go ahead and wind this pickup. All right, so we're back, and we have one wound. Can't get it to focus right. We have one Strat pickup wound. So what we're going to do now is we are going to put, that's a little bit better. We're going to put some tape on here. Why? Well, no other Strat pickup has tape on it. Why you do it? Because 9 out of 10 people who ruin a pickup ruin it when they're installing it. Because this wire is thinner than my beard hair. It's super thin. When you're soldering and you're connecting, it's real easy. I don't even know if you can see it, but you see that hookup wire right there? It's real easy to catch that and break it. It's real easy to, oops, screwdriver went in the coil, and then all this was for naught. So a little bit of tape goes a whole long way in making sure that not only does this pickup get in the guitar safely, but what it also does is it protects it over the life of the pickup. When you're sweating, obviously this thing saw a ton of sweat at some point in time, or maybe it just sat out in the rain. I don't know. But that tape helps to protect this pickup. It'll last a whole lot longer than this original one did. All right? Be back in a second as soon as I get it taped up. Alright, so we got our pickup taped off. Got to come way back here to get anything to focus. So it's all taped off. Now that coil is protected. That coil is going to live a long time. It's not going to have the same issues that it had from 73, which was rust. It was the #1 contributor to its death. But that'll live a long time. And the other thing that I forgot to tell you it protects it from is when you go to solder your wires into the pickup, you can also get little pieces of solder pop off. You don't want that on your coil. You can create a short real quick just by soldering the leads on. So you want to protect this. Even if you choose not to put tape on your pickups, you need to put something on there to protect them when you're soldering your leads in, okay? All right, I'm gonna solder the leads in and then we'll wrap this up. And so, there you go. We got our crusty old cover back on there, cleaned out on the inside. And it looks like it, you know, just came out of a crusty old 1973 Stratocaster. Use the original leads, put everything back together just like it should be. Turn this one to 7657. That's the spec roughly for that year, and it gets us right into the DCR range of the other two pickups. Use the same gauge wire, it's enamel wire. It's about as close as we're going to get. Even if you went and bought the purple wire, the purple plain enamel, it is not 1960s, 1970s purple plain enamel. If you've ever had the chance to grab some of that original plain enamel wire, it's kind of lumpy. It's not really smooth. You can kind of feel the lumps and bumps in it. It's definitely its own thing. Today's wire is nice and smooth, you know, modern. So don't get caught up in the wire color. Don't get caught up in paying big money for that wire color when you can get the same thing and get the job done, and no one's going to know the difference at all. Because either way, when it gets down to it, it's a rewound pickup. Is a little bit of value gone? Yes. However, most people will never even pull this out of the guitar. You know, they may take the plate off. It's got the stamp on it. Everything's there. It looks like it should be there. And as long as it sounds right, which it will, no one's really going to care. So don't get caught up in all that crazy stuff. The big things with pickups, you want to check your inductance, you want to check your capacitance, and then worry about your DCR, okay? All right, y'all have fun. Bye.